There were tears rolling out of the eyes of every player at the table. I wish I could recreate that moment, but unfortunately, I think that might be my one win ever.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. How are you all doing? Thank you very much for listening, to be fair. Welcome to the Forever DM, the J to the J and Silent Bob of Clash of Quests Twitch stream. We're a bunch of Forever DMs, really. We all get together, and we were tired of just running these games forever, so we got together, and we run a game between us. Today, we have an amazing guest. Like, not only does he have a magnificent beard, he is also the host of his very own podcast, which is the second best podcast name in the entire world, which is the Deck of Many Friends. Ladies and gentlemen, tieflings of all ages, welcome, Sully. Nice to meet you, dude.
Nice to meet you.
Well, let's just jump straight in. What edition are you guys playing right now?
Right, the second, 5th edition is the way to go. I think it's really the best thing that I can use to kind of just set a framework for this homebrew campaign that we're doing here. I've always loved it. Don't get me wrong. I love you, Wizards, and everything that you come out with is amazing, but mine's better. And 5th edition enables that the best. So,
what other editions have you played? Like, you seem pretty set on 5th.
So 3.5 was my adult entrance. Don't get me wrong. I was like 10 or something when 2nd came out. So we tried to play back then, but it was a complete and utter failure. 3.5 was way too much math for me. 4th just didn't hit it for me. I played it while I was in the Navy, but it was, a very short campaign. We may have gotten together 3 times, and then it was just drinking.
As all the best D&D games eventually devolve into.
Right. Yeah. 5th has been the one that I've actually stuck with since its culmination. So I'm definitely loving it so far.
You've kind of already answered one of my next questions, which is the age-old question of homebrew, or do you go module?
I'm definitely a homebrew kind of guy. I have made the attempts to follow a book along. I ran a very short-lived campaign with some of my nieces and my son actually playing through Dragon Heist. I just can't do it. I feel so limited by what they have, and then if I change anything, it's going to break everything going forward. So I've been writing stories my whole life. So this is just a really easy way for me to tell my story to everybody else simultaneously and play D&D. So it's kind of cool.
Are you a writer then by trade?
Oh, well, no, God. Nothing that I've ever written has ever seen any paper other than my printer and then the trash can. Yeah.
That actually makes you a real writer, by the way.
Oh, yeah, maybe it is. It's just nothing. It hasn't made me any money, that's for sure. No, I am an IT pro by trade.
Is writing something, is that kind of like the pipe dream? Is that what you'd really like to do? Or is it something to keep you sane on the sideline?
Man, if I could drop my real job today and just write, I would do it. I would sell books, or not even sell books, just write books. Who cares if they buy them or not? Unfortunately, my kids need food, and that's just not in the cards. But yeah, I would have loved to have been a fantasy novelist. I think that was my dream as a kid. Now that I know it doesn't pay any money, I just tell a story online.
It's certainly an amazing outlet. So who would you consider to be your top fantasy author influencers? No, that's cruel. You should never ask someone their top one. I'll give you top 3.
Okay. I could probably give you the top one. I think what actually got me into this, in fact, introduced me to D&D in general, was the R.A. Salvatore Forgotten Realms books, man. I Trist, or however you pronounce that, because it's never actually said. He was my spirit animal, man. It's tropey, but it's definitely what got me into it. I read Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman stuff back in the day, the Dragonlance series. So loved all of those. Not the greatest writers in the world, but an awesome story.
I was about to say, so the whole Dragonlance thing, it's iconic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did try to give it, I really enjoyed the story of the book that I read, but man, the writing was...
It's awful. I mean, if they're listening right now, for some reason, I love it. But,
thank you for everything you've done, but still.
Yeah, you could work on this. Ed Greenwood did some great things. The whole Forgotten Realms series pretty much just consumed the majority of my preteen and teen years. Spent a lot of time buried in those books. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it out as R.A. Salvatore's numero uno.
Nice. I think there's going to be a fair few people that agree with you on that one. Yeah. A fair few people. So where do you pull the majority of your inspiration? The best ever DM still, right? That's kind of like a good DM borrows a really good DM steals.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's if you listen to the podcast and you are well read, you may find some very familiar things in there. I do generally pull from a swath of inspirations. Some of them video games, some of them other authors that I love. A lot of them undiscovered. So God, I wish people would listen, would read some of that. And then obviously other DMs as well. Like, I mean, Mercer is my hero. I think he brought the storytelling game to the public. Things like what we're doing right now, right? I think even if you don't agree with his DM style or anything like that, that whole Mercer effect debate.
actually, let's just talk about that super quick. What is your opinion on the Mercer effect?
I think that session zeros actually should set these expectations. That everybody complains that new players are showing up to their tables and they're expecting you to be Matt Mercer. A session zero could easily just kill that from day one. Everything else, I think it has opened DMs up to be more narrative and more creative and things like that, rather than just being the guy behind the screen with dice that decides what's happening, right? The Mercer effect, I think, probably what will make D&D the mainstream thing that makes it succeed the most. I think all of us forever DMs and forever players, even from back in the 70s, will appreciate what Matt has done for the community. I think in all, it's a net positive.
I'm inclined to agree with you on that one. Like, honestly, I think he's done so much good for the hobby. No matter what you've got to say about him, he really brought this thing to the forefront. It was huge. Like, he's done something, and thanks to Mercer, we get all those. When everyone always says, "Oh, like, who do you prefer, like Mercer or Colville?" Right. Arguably, there'd be no Colville without Mercer.
Right.
He was the catalyst for a lot of those really awesome DMs that we've got out there. But yeah, no, I'm inclined to it. The best comeback I ever heard for the Mercer effect was, "I'll be Matthew Mercer if you can be Travis Willingham."
Right, exactly. We all strive to be Travis Willingham as well.
Every single day of my life.
Right.
How long have you been a DM for, just in general?
I think combined total, it would probably only be about 4 years. I think that, obviously I tried when I was younger, tried when I was a little bit older, and then now this recent kind of stint of being that forever DM, because I started and nobody wanted me to stop after that, is about 2.5 years. So I think total, maybe only about 4 years. Loving it. Obviously, I do miss playing a bit, but these last 2 years have been pretty awesome with it.
So with that in mind, thinking back over, I mean, not just the last 2 years, but, I'm assuming it will be within the last 2 years. What has been your favorite DM moment? Like, what's been that moment where you've just been that kind of drop the mic, you sit back in your chair, everything's come together, everything's come to fruition, and you're like, yeah, there it is. Like, what's been your proudest moment as a DM?
Okay. There was a moment in a past campaign. Unfortunately, this is not documented on the podcast. Otherwise, I could reference it and everybody go, yeah, that's great. But no, this one wasn't recorded. There was a death moment where it was completely unplanned. The win there that I consider is the ability to improv that moment where a very much loved character played by my friend Ken was assassinated, and there were tears rolling out of the eyes of every player at the table. I wish I could recreate that moment, but unfortunately, I think that might be my one win ever. So, but yeah, it was impactful and made me go, I think I'm doing this right.
If you can evoke that kind of emotional response, you've won. On the flip side of that, when you sit down with new players, or if you're running a game, what for you is kind of like, because I kind of find this with a lot of DMs that used to be players, they tend to have more rules when it comes to their players. Like, what for you is like a hard no for your players? Like, for instance, what's your opinion on phones, mobile phones or cell phones at the table?
I try not to be that Nazi DM that says, as soon as you sit down at my table, you are now my subject that has to listen to me or whatever. The phones definitely go in a box, right? We especially since we're recording, I don't want that buzzy Discord sound going off or whatever, right? It's incredibly distracting for me and them, and if I don't have your attention, then I'm not doing my job right either. So it is a kind of nice indicator when somebody picks up their phone that you're not doing a good job. But yeah, we tend to say, all right, put your headphones on and listen to nothing else but each other and me. So
Definitely no fair. I could not agree more.
So the other table rules, I guess, or probably one major one is that distraction thing. Is that if you're not focused on the table, and I've got a big one, so there's plenty of stuff to look at over here. If you're not focused on it, then I'm going to stop immediately. I'm going to call you out on it and everything. I'm like, listen.
Okay. Wow. All right. Yeah, I dig that. Yeah.
If you're not having fun, then tell me what I'm doing wrong or what everybody else is doing wrong or whatever, and let's figure that out so that we can continue actually having fun. Because if you're sitting around the table and not having fun, then why are you here, right? That's my
Game. It's literally a game. Like
Yeah.
you should be having fun.
Right. Sometimes we forget that as quote unquote professional DMs, but it is all supposed to be fun. And if they're having fun, I'm generally having fun, right? So that Colville-ism that I definitely hold dear.
Whenever a DM comes to me, or a future DM, I guess, comes to me like, Pip, I'm about to run a game. Like, have you got any tips? My knee jerk is always to go check out Colville.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that his insight has been probably if not the biggest contributing factor in how I run games now, even more so than Mercer's storytelling and voices and everything else. I think Colville, that knowledge that he has given through those running the game series has just been life-changing for me, honestly. I'm not even going to give it a lower tier. It is life-changing. And he is just as great of a storyteller as Mercer, if you ask me, in his own way, right? So
No, I 100% agree. Like, I even find myself every now and again dipping back into those rules, like those kind of tips on being a DM. Every now and again, I'll just go back in and just watch that series again because it's fantastic. I agree with you. It is life-changing. It's the tips that man gives is just incredible. So you jump in the DeLorean because that is the favorite time machine. You go back a mere 2 years to when you're about to kick off. You meet 2 years ago. I mean, did you have the beard then? We need to picture
post naval career. The beard was definitely the first thing that I decided that I was going to do with my life. Right? Is it get a job? Yeah, it's kind of important, but I got to grow a beard because they wouldn't let me do it while I was in the Navy. I did have much more hair on top at the time.
Okay.
Head of hair, I'm super jealous of color and everything, but my beard came first. It goes along with my actual job, and I feel like every good DM has a great beard. So minus Mercer, I guess he doesn't. Oh, well, no, he shaved whatever.
I bet Mercer does go for stubble every now and again.
He does. He had a goatee and some other stuff recently too, and during the Undeadwood thing, had the like motorcycle mustache thing, right?
Yeah.
The handlebars, whatever those were. But anyway,
I feel like all I want to do now is put proper research into beards and DMs just to see if there's a correlation. Because in my head that works.
I think you'll find one. And both of us having beards and being DMs, I think we'll automatic. We may have a little bit of a bias, but I think it.
Oh, not at all. We know it's true. Clearly, the best DMs on the planet. Like me and you at the top. Then maybe Mercer. Then maybe Colville. Maybe.
Yeah,
we'll get that correlation. Actually, I'm going to open myself up for a world of hate right now. But yeah, I mean, drop either of us an email if you're a bearded DM. Yeah, I think we should do that.
I think it's a thing.
And that's how the spam starts. So you jump in to the DeLorean 2 years ago. What are the tips that you give a burgeoning Sully?
Oh, wow. Oh, what didn't I know back then that I know now? To tell you the truth, don't be disappointed when someone doesn't get it, right? When things don't go your way. I think that was a huge moment for me was when I had planned and probably spent, I don't know, 2 or 3 like full work weeks developing this arc and everything else that I thought was just going to be received so well by my players. And it ended up, we got through maybe a paragraph or 2 of it before it diverged. I was at a loss. I improv'd it and we had a decent time and everything. But at the end of it, I reached out to my buddy who also played with me and said, guys, I was completely disappointed in this because you guys didn't do anything that I planned on you doing. I was genuinely upset. I think that's actually shaped a good way of how I DM now because of that one moment, right? And if I had gone into that moment knowing that, you know what, that you can't tell what other people are going to do. You can have an idea or, general guidelines or whatever. But if I could tell myself, don't be disappointed when they don't get what you've written, then I think I probably would have saved myself a few years of stress and maybe even hair loss to get me to where I am now. I think that has got to be it. That's got to be the one thing, man. If I could only give myself a single tip, then it's okay to fail every once in a while.
I think that's a great tip for new DMs in general. Is that, well, I guess it sort of comes in two parts. One is that, yeah, don't get bummed out. Don't be disappointed if it goes off the rails. Then the second half is the players don't know.
Right. It's not their fault. I mean, that was the thing. And I think that's probably what hit me the hardest was like whether or not it was, do I know my players well enough, or was this actually as good as I thought it was? Right. I mean, going back and reading some of that stuff now, I was like, man, that was awful. Why did you think that people were going to like this? It's constructive criticism now, as much as it was, maybe self-deprecating. It really did change a huge way of how I receive feedback now too. I think that was another thing, is that sometimes people don't like what you do, and that's okay.
I think that's a great tip. It's a great point of view. The other thing that I really like to ask DMs in general is, have you ever found yourself in a moment, quote unquote, in the real world where you've kind of channeled those DM skills?
What's really funny is that I was not good at character accents or anything like that originally. Since DMing, I've actually made that into a science project of my own, is to figure out, how did Mercer play that goblin guy with no arms in Critical Role. I really, really want to know how he made his voice do that. If you missed that episode, you should definitely watch it. Actually, it probably hasn't benefited me other than to show that I was more human at work. I have somewhat of a leadership position. I come off as this asshole most of the time, to kind of let them in and realize, okay, Sully is not this just evil overlord guy. I actually sat down with everybody and showed them what I was learning with the voice acting and everything, and it's become this thing where somebody says, hey, I really, really, really like this voice, can you do this for me, just as a random thing? And I'm like, maybe not today, but I'll go practice and I'll come back. And one of my favorite instances of that was actually Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Is a voice that somehow I have, I want to say perfected, but maybe the audience can tell me differently. But
I was gonna say, you know what I'm gonna ask, right? Like,
yeah. Oh man, you got me on the spot, but yeah, I can do it. So one quick tip is for all these other DMs out there as well, is that a lot of the times you'll find that there are multiple people with the same voice. Gollum is the same exact voice as Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. So you can, all right, here it goes. So you can say, Ohana means family, as at the same time as stinking hobbits. It's the same exact thing.
oh, that was a broken glass moment. Like,
yeah. Your mind just goes. So
yeah.
I mean, and that's probably one of my favorite things to do. I can actually, if you give me something to read, I can probably do that. In fact, to get my daughter to do her homework, I would read the instructions in Gollum's voice, just to entertain her, so that she would be interested in this thing, because the whole remote school thing just totally screwed with her. And so I sat down with her and just started reading it in random voices so that she would be interested and entertained, and it worked great. So
being a parent, how many kids have you got?
oh man, we're gonna throw me under the bus here. Nine children I have, ranging from 9 to 26.
Super cool. Now, you've already said that you kind of use that Smeagol / Stitch voice that's going to haunt me for the rest of my life.
Go watch both.
Being a parent, does that, like being a DM, does that help as well? Have you ever, I mean, storytelling.
I think it's definitely backwards, right? Being a parent has helped me be a DM, because
Oh, okay.
I think it's my players are going to hate me for saying this, but it's like dealing with children at the table, right? Is that everybody wants something different and everybody wants attention and everybody, so being able to manage that and then with enough force and maintain table etiquette. I think being a parent helped me with that. I can deal with, being a parent of 9 children, I can definitely deal with 5 players sitting at my table rather than they should be adults. Most of the time they act like adults, but there's a good portion of the time that they don't. So
I think I can count on one hand the amount of times my players have had acted like an adult.
Right. If maybe, half a hand.
Yeah. The storytelling thing was always the lapse for me. I have a 3-year-old, and one of my favorite things to do is obviously read bedtime stories, but also every now and again just come up with something on the spot. And it's a tiny bit self-indulgent. Yeah, I like that kind of improv aspect of it. But yeah, I really dig that side of things. What would be in an ideal world? D&D specifically. Obviously, there's other RPGs out there as well, but D&D right now is kind of it's almost like the golden age of D&D again.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's this weird, almost like deja vu feeling, right? Where back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was the cool nerd thing to do, right? And now, you've got actors like Vin Diesel and Manganiello and everybody else. They're all doing this and actually showing other people that hey, we're nerds too. And it's really cool to see that maybe there's more of us than you think, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. Henry Cavill, I remember having that conversation of when Superman came out, and I was like, do you know what, to be fair, and I'll throw myself under the bus because I specifically said that I didn't like Henry Cavill's Superman. I was like, it was too much. I was like, I don't really think he kind of gets it. I don't think he gets the source material at all. It just doesn't come across. And of course, over the next sort of year or two, and then especially when The Witcher came out, all of a sudden Henry Cavill just lets his geek colors fly. And I was like, oh, I feel really bad. He really gets the source material.
Right.
That man is deep into geek.
I love that in modern society now that being the geek that we all kind of hid back in the day is so easy to do. And in fact, probably more socially acceptable than being a jock or something like that, right? Is that more people can sit here and play D&D well than can go out on a football field or a baseball field, or I won't say soccer in front of you because I know you're British, but
no, I'd have to immediately end the Zoom call and then make myself a cup of tea and then eat some crumpets.
Right.
I just have to do it.
I think being a nerd or being a geek is probably more socially acceptable than being an athlete now, which is mind blowing and awesome at the same time.
I think it's amazing. I think it's something really awesome has happened and is happening. I used to struggle to get players. When you say that whole thing of have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons, and then just eyes glaze over and nothing. And now I legit get people coming up to me being like, hey, like Pip, you DM, right? And I'm like, first off, you've already shortened it to DM, just already. So we're already about 4 steps ahead of what we were before. Right. And then you just find yourself in these really just in a room with a bunch of strangers, apart from one person you vaguely know. And you're running a D&D game.
The simple or the sheer amount of players out there looking now too is just paying DMs to come DM for them. This is a new career field, right? Is that pro DM can get paid. They're doing it in corporate events and things like that, which is crazy to me. It's before playing D&D at work, no way. And they're doing it as team building activities and things like that now. So to be a DM in this age it's actually really awesome. I think that all the time that we spent being such huge nerds was well worth it in the end, right? Now we might actually get paid to do this stuff. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really true. Okay, so to wrap up, a few things. First off, not just from a DM perspective, I want Sully's perspective. I want Sully's recommendation for a book, a film, and a TV series. I have given you zero prior warning that I was going to ask you that question. I like to see people panic.
Thanks.
I want, like, bearing in mind everyone that listens to this is probably either going to remember of seeing Red Herd, or they're gonna go out and watch it. So no pressure.
Man. Okay. You said movie, book, and TV series, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Most of us are in lockdown. We've got nothing else to do.
Yeah. So you're gonna put me on the spot for something that nobody's heard of too. So there is. So I'll start with book. And it's an amazing audio edition, and it's really easy to read as well. There's a book called Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. That is not a finished series yet, so don't get mad at me when you get to the second book and there's not a third one yet. Amazing novel, and if you read it, you can call me out for all the things that I stole from it, because it's great thing, great story, and lots of stuff to steal. Movie. Honestly, so this was pre-Matrix, so I think it was like 2000 or something like that. It's a movie with Christian Bale in it called, and now I'm going to blank on the name of it. Maybe I'll just remember it as I'm talking about the TV series. Yes, yeah, I'll talk about a TV series that got canceled, but it's okay. You're gonna love it anyway for the little bit that you were there. There was a book book series back in the day that got adapted into TV. It's called The Passage. It was a weird vampire zombie apocalyptic thing, and then they got Zach from Saved by the Bell to play this character. So go look it up. It's The Passage. It's an amazing thing. There's only maybe 8 episodes or something like that, but it well done, and canceled. So all you Firefly fans out there, I'm warning you early that it gets canceled.
It's fine though. We've got the hope with Firefly. Joss Whedon has said he's okay with doing a second series. We're okay. He did say that about a year and a half ago, but still.
Wash is dead. So sorry, spoilers.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Firefly, it's fine.
Yeah. Equilibrium is the name of the movie.
Equilibrium. Yes, I have heard of Equilibrium. Yes, I have not seen it, but yes, I have heard of it.
It is quite possibly one of the best movies I've ever seen, under, low budget and maybe a little bit cheesy, but it is amazing, especially if you're into that kind of climb out of hell story, right? The rags, not really rags to riches, but hero out of nowhere story that we all love to think that we could be one day, right? So it's awesome.
Cool. That's a pretty solid selection. And then the final question, which is, if you thought there was going to be judgment on the question before, this is where the gauntlet really gets thrown down, which is Dirty Dancing on Footloose.
Oh man. So man, I hate Kevin Bacon, so I'm just gonna have to go with Dirty Dancing by default. I don't know what it is about Kevin Bacon. Maybe it's that he has like this 7 degrees thing or 6 degrees. But maybe that's what it is. Is that it's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. See, and that alone, the fact that there's less degrees that you need to connect to Kevin Bacon is the problem that I have with him, right? No, so we'll go with Dirty Dancing. I think I'm good with that.
All right, yeah, like I've genuinely really enjoyed this. It's been a really cool conversation, man. Like you're really sound, folks. Listen to that voice. Just listen to those soft, dulcet tones, and tell me you don't want to listen to Deck of Many Friends. Like, I mean, come on, I do. Like, I'll be straight. I did not do my research before this aired. I had a super busy week. I am listening to that podcast tomorrow. Like on my morning run. I say run. It's a speedy walk, but I will be listening. Like, you got a really nice flow, man. Like you seem really sound.
Appreciate it, man. It's good to hear from someone who I consider to have the same. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. If any of the other interviews sound or look like this, then I'm listening to every single one. So.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, yeah, hopefully people can pick up different tips, different styles from the different DMs. So that is sadly it, folks. That is sadly the end of today's episode. However, there are a bunch of Deck of Many Friends you can catch up on. And of course, you can catch us on our live stream on Saturdays. But thank you so much, Sully. Honestly, cheers, man. Like you've been an absolute legend. Thank you. Guys, I'll catch you later, guys. Be lucky. Hiya, guys. So it's me, Pippin. So I was just listening back to this episode, right? And it occurs to me, the whole joke about like having a beard and being a good DM, like obviously it's meant in jest. Obviously it's funny in the moment, but kind of giving it a cold listen, I don't know. It didn't really hit right for me. So like, I just want to kind of, and not apologize because it was funny in the moment, but like, you don't need a good beard to be a good DM, guys. Obviously you don't. I mean, how many great DMs are out there? I mean, I literally work with another DM who hasn't got a beard. I literally DM in a group where I think I am the only one with a beard. Yeah, I am, like genuinely. In fact, I had a conversation with Tobias Nagato about having a beard. So yeah, like obviously it's not a thing. Of course it isn't. I just kind of want to make it super clear that it was a joke in the moment. And yeah, it was totally funny in the moment, but with a cold listen, didn't really hit. So anyway, guys, that's just a quick PS from me. Please look after yourself, folks. And we will see you next time on the Forever DM. Much love, folks. Bye-bye.